Hi everybody, Tim here, and I've been meaning for a while to show off one of the things I've been trying to learn in kite surfing because it's really hard to describe just by talking or writing it down. So this is why Julie helped me make a little kite boarder here with a magnetic board and a little kite on a stick, and I can demonstrate what I've been trying to learn for a couple of years now. So I've got these guys and I've got my wind direction arrow here. And what I'm trying to learn is a kind of tacking, which is how a sailboat makes a sharp turn. So when you're learning to turn in kite surfing, you'll be cruising along. And the first way you learn to do it is to dig your heels in like this to slow down and stop. And then you bring your kite up overhead and down in the new direction to pull you back in that new direction. So if you do this smoothly enough, you can slow down and stop as the kite comes up overhead, and it'll support you while you're making the turn, and that way you don't slow down, fall into the water before you turn around. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how everybody learns it first. But the problem with it is, first of all, it's not very graceful to slow down and stop instead of carrying some speed. And also, if you're riding down the face of a wave, you can't slow down and stop. The wave's just going to eat you. So the way old school wave surfers do this without kites is they use a board that is directional, that only goes in one direction, like a traditional surfboard shape. And instead of slowing down and stopping, they do what's called a carving turn. So they'll be coming in one direction, and then they'll start to turn downwind or down the face of the wave and come back in the other direction. It's called a carving turn because if you do it really well, you can angle the board really hard, lay down across the water, and spray water everywhere. It's really neat. And if you do it really well, you can do it smoothly, carrying a lot of speed. And that's why surfing is really pretty to watch on the face of big waves. There are a couple of tricky parts about this, and one of them is that you start the turn with your heels down and toes up in the air. That's called riding heel side. And when you come out of the turn, you're riding the other way with your toes down and your heels up in the air. That's called riding toe side. And of course, you can do that the other way too. You can start toe side and finish heel side. But you've got to transition. You've got to switch at some point in that. And if you do that too early, the water will catch the edge of the board here and you'll flop over. And if you do it too late, it messes up too. So there's footwork and balance and stuff involved in it that makes it pretty tricky. The thing that makes it especially difficult with kiting is that instead of using the wave power, we're using kite power. And at some point in the turn, you're going directly downwind, directly in the direction of the wind. And this becomes a problem with any sailing sport traveling directly downwind because the speed, the kite wind speed changes. So if I'm cruising along at 15 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour wind, and maybe in the turn I'm going downwind at 10 miles an hour, the kite only feels 5 miles an hour worth of wind because it's 15 miles an hour blowing that way, but the kite is traveling downwind at 10. So it loses power and falls out of the sky. And I have many, many attempts of myself on video trying to do this turn with the kite, slowing down and just inching through the turn very slowly and sometimes even sinking down into the water because I'm not moving fast enough to stay up. So the way kiters make this work is with an aggressive kite maneuver called a downloop, where instead of bringing the kite up and overhead, they'll bring the kite down, get some speed with gravity, and bring it across the front of the wind like this. And this generates much, much more power in the kite because, first of all, you're getting speed from going down. You're picking up speed with gravity. And just like an airplane, speed creates lift. And also, when the kite is at this position down here, as opposed to up overhead, the kite produces a lot more power because the wind is blowing flat against the kite like this instead of at the same angle as the kite here. So when you do a down loop like this, the kite generates a tremendous amount of power even if you're going directly downwind. So what you have to do is come in to the turn like you're going to do the carving turn and time it with the kite power so that when you bring the kite down, directly downwind of you, it's pulling you downwind and you come across with a ton of power and speed. And if you do this really well, it can be really fast and spraying water everywhere and smooth. And it can take a long time to learn how to do that, especially if you're like me and you're timid, because if I overdo that kite, that down loop, I can get thrown downwind pretty hard. And the final tricky part of that is that when I finish and I'm riding toe side, for old school wave surfers without kites, that's no problem. They switch from heel side to toe side and back as they carve down the face of a wave while it's chasing them. But it's not super comfortable to ride with a kite toe side for very long because the kite is constantly trying to turn me back. And I'm trying to stay here with my toes down and the kite just constantly pulls me back. So it's not very comfortable to ride toes side for very long. So the last part of this kind of turn I want to do is to actually switch my feet back from toe side coming out of the turn and actually move my feet around to heel side to ride comfortably again. And that way I can turn this way, and then hopefully I can do it again and get my feet back this way and make that turn as many times as I want. And that, honestly, that's the hardest part of all of this. Moving my feet around on the board is so hard because it involves a lot of balance and, making a real quick move while you're trying to balance on this board that's cruising along on the water. But I'll get there. I did that part, that foot switch, for the first time in the fall, and I'm hoping before too long I'll be able to do the full carving turn around, keeping up my speed, and then switching my feet back the right way so I can cruise on and do it again. So I'll get there someday. Been working on that for a couple of years, and hopefully I'll get it someday. All right, just wanted to show all you folks that. Talk to you later.